Hi, good morning. Thanks for that, Dick. That was really interesting looking at those stamps. I really liked looking at the ones that the kids designed. That's pretty amazing. So today, yes, we're going to be talking about Robert Rauschenberg, who we've actually covered in a couple other art talks, but today we're going to be focusing on the posters that he created to commemorate Earth Day and his involvement with climate activism through his art. So a little background, considered to be one of the most influential American artists due to his radical blending of materials and methods. Robert Rauschenberg was a crucial figure in the transition from abstract expressionism to the later modern art movements. One of the key neo-dada movement artists, his experimental approach expanded the traditional boundaries of art, opening up avenues of exploration for future artists. The United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, also known as the Earth Summit, was held in Rio de Janeiro in 1992. Rauschenberg attended the summit and published this statement in the Visions of America brochure that same year. It reads, "The inhabitants of the world are exhausting its resources and through ignorance and misuse insisting on its non-existence. Now is the only time we have. We need all of the existing living things to attempt with devout attention and dedication to, if not reverse this certain death, to turn back into life. What power people without reason read as development, I read as greed. Reality has to take the place of unacted hope. The global summit is the beginning to stop the end." Rauschenberg's largest dirt painting, Growing Painting, on the left, survives only in a photograph taken by the artist when it was exhibited in the third annual exhibition of painting and sculpture at the Stable Gallery in New York in early 1954. So what began as a dirt painting, earth contained within a vertical wooden box frame, evolved into a painting made of growing grass when birdseed accidentally fell into the painting's surface. Rauschenberg regularly watered the painting throughout the 3-week installation at the gallery, allowing Growing Painting to thrive for a time before perishing. And on the right, he designed the first Earth Day poster to benefit the American Environment Foundation in Washington, D.C. Now, this was what AJ and Jacques were mentioning of the bald eagle. Using the bald eagle as the dominant image, the artist symbolically placed the United States at the center of the global problem. Muted and muddy tones depicting environmental decay surround the national bird. Polluted cities, contaminated waters, junkyards littered with debris, landscapes scarred by highways and deforestation, and the gorilla, another endangered animal. Lithopinion 26, the Current Affairs and Graphic Arts Journal, dedicated its summer 1972 edition to the subject of our transportation mess. Rauschenberg's contribution was inspired by a dream that William Burroughs, the beat writer, had described to him, and which resulted in this lithograph, Dream of William Burroughs. Surrounded by images of various modes of transportation, the lithograph includes the words, "They did not fully understand the technique. In a very short time, they nearly wrecked the planet." At the core of his Rauschenberg Overseas Cultural Interchange, or ROCI project, is Rauschenberg's belief that art can be a catalyst for positive social change. Rauschenberg told a New York Times reporter, "I try to use my art to communicate that you, yourself, must take responsibility for life on Earth." While collecting source material for the ROCI Malaysia paintings, Rauschenberg took photographs during his travels and visited local tribes. His artwork here, Hutan Belantara, or Virgin Forest, addresses the conflict between urban and indigenous cultures in Malaysia, while specifically confronting the plight of hunters whose livelihood was affected by the destruction of the rainforests there. Rauschenberg commemorated Earth Day on its 20th anniversary, April 22nd, 1990, with a print produced in an edition of 75. And observed by 200 million people around the globe, Earth Day 1990 definitively brought the environmental movement to international attention. Upon his return from the Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro, Rauschenberg was scheduled to work on a new project with Donald Saff, director of Saff Tech Arts in Oxford, Maryland. And they collaborated on this series of windmill-type structures called Eco-Echo that kind of moved and responded to movements from viewers as they would pass by them. Golf was created in 1969, so a year before the inaugural Earth Day, but it showcases Rauschenberg's passion for ocean conservation. He lived and worked for his last 40 years in the Cape Coral region of the Florida Gulf Coast and was keenly aware of the fragile ecosystem that was being affected by rising global temperatures. In 1991, the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development launched the Earth Pledge, described as an urgent call to action to save planet Earth. Rauschenberg donated this lithograph titled Last Turn, Your Turn. Appearing above the images of an infant and the figure of Atlas supporting the weight of the world are the words from the Earth Pledge inscribed in the artist's handwriting. Quote, "I pledge to make the Earth a secure and hospitable home for present and future generations." Here's the most recent Earth Day poster made in conjunction with NASA. The ocean holds about 97% of Earth's water and covers 70% of our planet's surface. Even if you live hundreds of miles from the coast, what happens in the oceans is fundamental to your life. The Earth Day poster is composited with real satellite imagery from NASA's Terra, Aqua, and Landsat missions. Here's some images from the very first Earth Day celebration in 1970, and AJ and Jacques kind of gave a little background on this. Senator Gaylord Nelson, the junior senator from Wisconsin, had long been concerned about the deteriorating environment in the United States. Then in January 1969, he and many others witnessed the ravages of a massive oil spill in Santa Barbara, California. He was inspired by the student anti-war movement, and Senator Nelson wanted to infuse the energy of the anti-war protests with an emerging public consciousness about air and water pollution. Nelson recruited Dennis Hayes, a young activist, to organize these campus teach-ins and to scale the idea to a broader public. And they chose April 22nd, a weekday falling between spring break and finals exams, to maximize the greatest student participation. In collaboration with an outdoor advertising company, Transportation Displays, Inc., these billboards, Last Turn, Your Turn, which we looked at earlier, Ozone, seen here, and Pledge, all created in 1991, were displayed on buses in cities throughout the US. And the bus billboards brought environmental concerns to the attention of a national audience. And of course, the fight for environmental activism still goes strong today. Here are some photos submitted by SMA's own Patricia, and it shows the vast piles of fast fashion clothing that are being dumped in the Atacama Desert in Chile. The photo on the right shows the debris even from space. Earth Day and Earth Week are times to reflect on how we can make changes in our own lives to be more environmentally conscious, and of course, to hold our governments and large corporations responsible as well. Thanks, everyone, and I'll see you next week.